Hi there, and welcome back to the Fuse Show. Today I'm joined by Larry Rosenzweig. Today's episode title is The Rise of the Creator Economy, and our tagline is 50 million people are earning a living online today. How can you become a revenue-generating creator? And our guest, Larry, is the co-founder and CEO of Cquence, a video creation platform for creators to produce video content 10 times faster. Before starting Cquence, Larry worked in technology and ran a small video production company for the past decade. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David.
So you're not the first person that's trying to tackle the creator economy space, but can you tell me about your journey, your personal journey of how you came to realize this is the problem you want to solve and this is the business you want to build?
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. I started making films in high school over 12 years ago. The first film I made actually ended up being with one of my co-founders who is working on Cquence with me today. We made a feature. We didn't know short form filmmaking was even an option. So we made a 90-minute film. It was a life-changing experience. Did it on a shoestring budget, having never previously even turned on a camera before. Taught ourselves how to edit. Fast forward 7 or 8 years later, the two of us are still working together, and we put films into festivals, as well as even sold one to a distribution platform. And we realized whether we're making short or long form, scripted, unscripted, videos from Zoom calls, live streams, you name it, it just takes too long to get from raw footage to your first draft where the real creativity begins. And we saw this problem and recognized that this wasn't just something we were facing individually, but a large market of individual video creators and teams were experiencing as well.
And did you just meet these in your journey of being a video creator? These other people that had the same problem?
Yeah, one of the biggest benefits to our market is the video creator community is very strongly networked. So you'll meet one video creator, and that one video creator can, over the course of call it 2 years, introduce you to another 10 video creators, and then each one of those 10 introduce you to another 10, and it just kind of scales on its own.
Does that parallel your marketing and growth strategy with Cquence as well? Like you're getting primarily like users through referrals?
Yeah, and especially in our early days, word of mouth, community-driven, bottoms-up adoptions been our primary focus today.
So how'd you go from creating films to creating a film platform? Because I feel like there's a lot of hoops in between. You need to, one, I guess, learn technology or learn how to manage technologists. And two, you need to learn how to, build a business around something. And I think a lot of people love solving problems, but not necessarily to the extent of building a business to solve a problem. How'd you know that was the right thing for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So at first I didn't. My whole purpose in college was I want to find a career where I like what I'm doing during the day and then take my income and literally just put it into making films. That was like my entire life goal at 19. And I stumbled on technology, computer science and design. And, I had some friends who were in the space and they showed me what they were working on. And I quickly became attracted to learning, how to solve problems there and, recognized that I could fulfill my dream of being able to work in technology and create interesting solutions to challenging problems during the day and, by night being able to be a full-time creator.
And how, I know a lot of creators create and they make effectively 10 cents per video or some negligible amount from YouTube AdSense. How do you encourage people to go from just getting started to making significant levels of income? Enough to at least be a side gig that's reliable?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's no silver bullet. I think first off, what I will say is if you are passionate about something, you don't have to go to film school or take a whole course in order to learn how to record. So you can buy an affordable DSLR camera. You can record yourself in your room, even on your webcam. And the idea is if you are captivating and telling a story through either something you're teaching or as a vlog, as you as a persona, really whatever that you're passionate about. What we see is in order to start hitting critical mass, say on YouTube, for example, you would need about 6 months of consistency in your videos. Whereas, say in TikTok, because they have a different algorithm, you're able to much more quickly, if you're engaging, be able to scale and create a revenue generating strategy.
Is it your goal through Cquence to help users reach that goal, or is it more so you're trying to solve a technical problem within the scope of that domain?
It's a great question. I would say in the short term, we're definitely looking at helping folks who already create meaningful video content and help them accelerate that process. Long term, our mission is to democratize the video creation workflow. So being able to make it not only really fast, like we're focusing on today, but also a lot more accessible and a lot more collaborative. And that way we'll be able to enable anyone to create meaningful video content.
Can you elaborate more on, yes, your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and where it is today and where you want to see evolve over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. Today we are targeting any video editor who is using platforms like Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut 10, really just ensuring that we're able to accelerate the workflows for folks who are editing with the existing platforms now. But long term, we do see a world where we're able to elaborate on that and start building more technology in the cloud for more distributed collaborative video editing.
Can you tell me more about how Cquence accelerates things dramatically compared to a more traditional video pipeline?
Yeah, so we're giving video creators essentially the speed and power of Google with the intuition and seamlessness of a Trello. So that combination, so firepower and simplicity in terms of the user experience, is really the 1-2 punch of what makes Cquence special. And that secret sauce is a combination of deep technical expertise that we have on our team with also the decade plus video editing experience.
So in terms of how the platform itself helps a user compared to a pure Adobe workflow, what are some of the benefits they can get through your platform that couldn't get otherwise elsewhere?
Yeah, it's a great question. So essentially, you can treat Cquence like a Google, like I was mentioning, and you can do that for every project. What the value for our platform is we enable you to not only very quickly create video content for your existing project, but you can very easily repackage previous content once again for any future purpose. Not only that, we enable you to very easily create different versions inside of our platform for your respective channels. So we have a lot of existing creators who say they're working on some branded content. They have to create for that client a YouTube version, a TikTok version, and an Instagram version of, from the same source footage. We make it just very easy for you to create the rough draft of your story exceptionally quick, and then you can, export that and move on to the next version, radically faster than you've previously done before.
So when you say Google, when I'm searching something into the Cquence platform, what is it searching for? Is it searching for objects in the image? Is it searching for audio? Is it searching for text? How's it searching?
It's a great question. So it's a combination of all of the above. So you could search for quotes, interviews, objects, locations, actual actions like walking, running. Down the road, we definitely look to continue expanding to be able to build AI that's specific to the video workflow. But today we're able to give the video creator a lot from both a quality and a reliability standpoint.
So for the platform to be able to do this sort of tagging, does it require user intervention, or is it based on the I don't know, auto detection through like AI?
Yeah, so we've built our own models that essentially go frame by frame. And the way it works is a video creator imports their footage into our platform, and we're streaming low resolution versions of the footage into our infrastructure, where we then go tag all of the metadata for both a visual and audio perspective. And we're indexing that metadata to give you the search capabilities that you would expect from other types of robust search platforms. And equally important, you're at that point, once you find the result, able to very easily assemble your rough cut.
So for you to grow your user base, how are you currently finding these creators to use your platform?
Yeah, so like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've definitely been leveraging word of mouth, organic growth. What's also been really exciting is being able to participate in different communities. So there's a lot of video creator communities across Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit, just to name a few examples. And because we've, as a team, been participants of these communities actively for the last decade, it's very easy for us to engage and work with folks in a collaborative way, because we're one of them. Essentially, like, our team is building a platform by video creators for video creators, and that really resonates with our existing and presumably our future customers.
Right now, are you like how big is your team currently?
We're currently a small team, and we're currently hiring for full stack, senior, and lead engineering positions to help grow.
Okay. So right now it's you and your co-founder, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of between the two of you, how do you split responsibilities?
So it's actually three of us.
Three of us.
The way it's split is, let's see. So it's my co-founders, Nick and Dom. And Nick was the other filmmaker, video editor who I was mentioning, who I've been working with for the last 12 years. He's our COO. He wears a lot of hats, everything from head of product to QAing to leading our marketing efforts to operations, and I think he's even done taxes once for us. He's very talented and able to do a lot at a very high level, which is huge at an early stage startup. Our other co-founder, Dom, he and we actually met previously. We were working in banking, actually, both in technology there. And he was a senior engineering manager, and I was a senior engineer on his team. And he joined us, and the two of us built out version 1 of Cquence together. But he's our CTO. We defer to him on all things architecture, infrastructure, engineering-wise. And even though I contributed towards the code base for a good 2 years, I've not been in the code base for the last 6 months, as I've been focusing more on things like fundraising, sales, and hiring.
Gotcha. In terms of the initiatives that you listed on your plate, how do you rank them in terms of time consumed?
It's a good question. It really depends on the timing. I would say right now, call it 40% sales, 40% hiring, 20% fundraising. Okay.
Usually I hear the reverse, where fundraising is the 80%, the other rest is 20%. It's nice to know you're able to still balance everything out, because I think a lot of other people get stuck in just the fundraising.
Yeah, I think what's important, and we've experienced it, and I think most early stage startups do, is you really got to time box it. So there'll be ebbs and flows when you're doing one thing more than others. I've definitely had the periods where I'm not 80% fundraising, I'm like 99% fundraising, or so it feels like. But I think it is important to time box and even give yourself retrospectives to be able to think about what's important at the moment. And as things change with product, with traction, with everything else, you're able to also reevaluate where you want to devote your resources.
So how did your experience in building no outlet media influence your experience in building Cquence?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the film we made in high school was actually called No Outlet. So that's why we named the media company after it. So No Outlet Media was this really fun, small production company that I ran with another, friend and filmmaker. Nick had been running a couple other production companies as well over the past decade. And, I think what we both experienced was the fact that you have to watch back all of your footage all the time just to be able to create the first draft of your story. And when I would create a web series and we go have 10 to 20 actors on set and do a real project and want to be able to distribute it and, do a great, high quality job with the project, it was important for me to be able to review all that footage. Turns out with spreadsheets and really, doing a thorough examination of what we captured, it would end up taking, weeks all in terms of total number of hours before we could even edit the first second of the 5-minute video. And I experienced this over and over again. So specifically with No Outlet Media, I remember it was a Saturday and I spent an entire 10-hour day with spreadsheets reviewing every file, watched each one back multiple times, and kind of just threw my pen up and said, I can't work like this anymore, and started scouring for solutions out there to solve this, because at first I didn't really want to build Cquence. I wanted to buy it. And because I couldn't find it, I felt my team and I were and are the right team to go and solve this problem.
So when you had this problem, you had to probably learn a lot of technical things along the way. Imagine software engineering in the banking world and software engineering in the video production world are completely different, maybe even worlds apart. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a good question. Luckily, where our co-founder Dom and I were working previously, we were using a lot of the modern technology stacks. And we were able to build the majority of our infrastructure and technology using similar stack. And essentially, yes, there are a lot of differences in terms of user experience and workflow. But when you think about it, at the end of the day, creating a project and making an API call to a backend is not different between any product, consumer or enterprise. And I think taking that philosophy has helped us been able to build a really powerful product with just a very lean team.
Gotcha. And did you have to learn specific video related, APIs or packages to learn how to process video data at scale and throw it into machine learning, training model?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I will say is we've invested a lot of resources in building strong relationships with the other editing programs, like Adobe, for example. And building an integration into those platforms is definitely something you don't learn at a bank. It's a very challenging workflow to successfully build. And, I know, up front, even ahead of the call, we chatted for a minute about how as a video creator, you want to make sure you can trust the platform and, a workflow isn't going to be completely new and different from what you do today. And as video creators for the last decade, our team really recognized that. And that's why we believe that we've created a platform with all the subtlety and nuance necessary that video creators going to need in order to, add a new cloud-first, fast platform into their existing workflow.
So what about the building of the model that identifies either metadata in the form of video or images or audio? To train on audio data, there's a lot of audio samples, but to train on visual data, you do need examples of a lot of pictures. Did you just use Google Images and download those images, or how'd you train your model to identify certain like entities?
Yeah, it's a great question. So using visual as an example, we were able to take hundreds of thousands of images and essentially train based on those hundreds of thousands of images to discern certain objects and locations. And we do this all as pre-processing before your footage even comes into the platform. So we're not learning on your new footage. We're doing it on pre-existing images and able to tag things like desk or coffee cup or beach as your footage comes in. We can't do things that are more specific yet.
So between your experience as a software engineer and I guess your academic experiences, did you learn more from school or did you learn more from your accelerated program to be an entrepreneur?
Got it. It was necessary to do both, and I feel the sequential order of them was the right one. So I felt it was important to learn how to build technology, design good software first, learn the real craft to parallel my love of implementing the craft for filmmaking. Naturally, I stumbled upon this intersection where we could build technology to solve a problem for creators. So I think it's a sort of thing where if you're passionate about solving a problem, you'll be able to find communities like the accelerator we participated in to help support and accelerate your growth, not only as a company, but also personally to be able to take on, say, like a large undertaking, like, starting a startup.
Who would you did you feel like there's a specific type of people who would best benefit from going through an accelerated program? Or do you feel like every entrepreneur should go through an accelerated program?
That's a good question. I definitely would not be prescriptive to say every entrepreneur should. Our team was first-time founders from a venture-backed startup perspective. Nick had worked at 2 early-stage startups in leadership roles previously, so he definitely saw it at a later stage firsthand. And Dom had a lot of technology experience and, leadership and management experience, but hadn't, created a startup before either. So we felt as a team, given the 3 of us were all first-time founders, that an accelerator was a really great fit for us. And I think, there's plenty of startups that don't go through an accelerator and succeed, even as first-time founders, but there's a lot of little and I'd say large mistakes that we were able to avoid just from having a really high quality community through the accelerator and the broader New York tech community be able to support us.
Can you walk me through some of those examples of mistakes that you were able to avoid because you had an accelerated program or community? Yeah,
it's a good question. I would say the first one is just thinking about KPIs. Until we joined an accelerator, for those who don't know what a KPI is, it stands for Key Performance Indicator. And essentially it's usually 1 to 2 core metrics that you focus on to be like your North Star as a company. And you'd want to review them weekly with your core founding team to make sure what you've accomplished or failed to accomplish in the previous week is at least in line with your goals and targeted towards accomplishing your goals for the month with respect to those KPIs. Now, we have a lot more than, say, 2 KPIs that we worry about, but I think the accelerator was a great example of getting us into practice around thinking about KPIs at a smaller scale and helped build our regiment for our team to, even now, almost a year later, be able to continue with the practice. I think another good example was we'd have these like MD meetings, which I guess stood for Managing Director meetings, which was just basically a board meeting, but with the 3 of us and our core team at the accelerator. And we do that monthly. And I think that was really helpful for us ahead of fundraising because we were able to understand what the relationship would be like between us as a founding team and, starting to talk to investors, not only investors who you're talking to for the first time, but investors who now you have relationships with. What are those expectations like in terms of monthly or quarterly updates?
Do you have KPIs that you track nowadays that you've been tracking consistently for a long time now?
Yes, they have and will continue to evolve. So we're not afraid to throw a KPI out if it's not working.
In terms of other experiences did you learn from specific advisors that you met at the accelerator program, or did you more like you learn from everyone? Like, was it more of a one-to-one or like a one-to-many style?
Great question. So definitely one-to-many. I think there's definitely, in any type of community-driven support, there's going to be a handful of folks who are like part of your inner circle, and then there's going to be like a next level group of folks outside that are actively helping you, but maybe a little bit less than those immediate supporters. I'd say all in, though, the broader community really helped us because when you say want to begin fundraising, it's really nice to be able to go on LinkedIn and see someone you're connected with is connected to, a managing director at a fund. You could potentially get a warm intro. And I think that was really helpful for us to be able to recognize that there were crucial people we connected with, and then made sure we'd stay connected with long after the fact to be able to make valuable intros for us.
Did you have the same group of people over time to advise as well as invest, or do you try to expand that, like, to broader and broader groups?
It's a good question. I definitely like to continue expanding, and I don't think that necessarily dilutes the support or help either. It's more just like I think different people help you at different times in your growth, and they recognize that. So specifically with the accelerator, the program ended in October of 2020. We had a demo day, and then after that, we'd still keep in contact and ask for some support. But we would, now we're basically on our own, and there's other companies who are currently going through the accelerator, and they're getting, a lot more one-on-one, day-to-day support, which is, very natural during, say, the 4 months of your cohort.
So when you're as a first-time founder, how do you make sure you're not being like given a bad deal when you're getting an investor cap, and when an investor provides a cap table based on what they're willing to invest?
Can you elaborate on the second half of that?
Sure. So just to make sure, I guess for the founders or soon-to-be founders who are following along in this episode, if they're thinking about fundraising, how can they make sure they're getting a good deal for the amount of equity they're giving up? Got it.
I think it's definitely an art and a science. So it's going to be hard to be prescriptive here too. Make sure you get good lawyers. I think that's important. We've relied on our counsel to be helpful for us.
How'd you find a lawyer?
How do we find ours? Funny, actually, through one of our early angel investors. His brother was a tech lawyer, and then started a company, and then he introduced us to a couple other counsels, and we liked one of them in particularly, and we've been with them ever since.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think just going back to your question, it's important to make sure to learn what you don't know. And I know it sounds maybe very obvious, but it is important to, I think, connect with either through an accelerator or advisors or counsel, especially counsel, to understand what the fine print looks like before you sign documents, just so then you're able to make the best decisions for you and your team.
Okay. So once you receive funding and you're trying to, use that funding well, what were some of the bigger pain points you experienced in your personal journey?
With how to use the funding?
Yeah. Or just in general, like I guess things that require either time or money in a startup world?
Got it. Got it. It's a good question. I think hiring is definitely a challenging, aspect of building a startup. So we're currently hiring, and it's very exciting, but it's also a lot of work. You're getting, pulled in a lot of different directions. You're getting a lot of, interesting opportunities and exciting candidates coming through your pipeline. But it's really important early on for you to recognize not only who would be a great fit from a position and role standpoint, but also from a culture standpoint. So in terms of how to use, your investments properly is important to, I think, for software businesses, especially post-COVID, where a lot of them will be remote first. You're probably not spending much on rent and other types of, brick and mortar costs. The majority of your expenses will likely be related to hiring. And I think your time should be reflected there as well.
What are you currently using to hire engineers? Because I think everyone's always in the hunt for good engineers.
Yeah, it's a good question. We're leveraging AngelList and LinkedIn for the most part right now, and really also leveraging our networks to help us broaden our hiring efforts, to all types of communities too.
I recognize your company is on the younger end, but have you noticed any influence as a result of COVID in terms of either accelerating your growth or making certain portions of your business harder or easier?
Yeah, it's a good question. Here's what I'll say. Video is here to stay. That's for sure. As we're even doing a live stream here and streaming this out to all of your different audiences. I do think it's reflective of the times. There's a lot of different channels that even this one video could go out to. And even post-COVID, I think people at all realms, whether it's an individual level or an enterprise level, have recognized the power of video, everything from communication to brand to commercial strategy, etc. So what we've seen from our business's standpoint is a lot more openness around not only video as a core strategy to building a successful business, but working with an early stage startup like ours, perhaps earlier in a sales process or in other ways, being a lot more open to updating and integrating new products into, frankly, an old and legacy workflow.
One of the things I like to ask people who started business with their friends, I guess, how's it going for your relationship on the more personal side? Were you ever afraid that starting a business with friends would affect the relationship in a negative way?
It's a good question. No, was never really concerned. I think what's great about Nick, Dom, and myself is the three of us definitely have our own separate lives when we're not, working on Cquence, and I think that gives us all the healthy amount of balance and being able to bring our best selves to our day to day.
Gotcha. And what are some things you like to do in your free time to help you really decompress?
Yeah, it's a good question. In normal non-COVID times, I like to go to concerts. I'm a big baseball fan, so I like to not only go to baseball games but play softball on the weekends. And I'm here in New York City, so it's always great checking out different neighborhoods, restaurants, and spending some time with family and friends.
Do you find that despite being an early stage startup, you still have enough time for your personal life?
It's a good question. I think COVID invited myself and our team to work crazy hard because there wasn't much else going on, and it was very easy to say, well, I should just keep going and keep working. I do think in many ways it was necessary for us to get to our next milestones. So definitely like all around good. I think though with the world opening back up a little bit, we recognize that especially as we're hiring now and bringing on a larger team, it's a lot more important for us to continue to invest in ourselves as people and our team from a work-life standpoint as we continue to grow.
In terms of investing into your team, like what are your thoughts on like your company's culture? Like what's important to your team as it relates to culture?
Yeah, so basically, I'd say for us, the most important thing, or some of the most important things are around creativity, being autonomous, being able to work collaboratively as well. So autonomous and collaboration could sometimes, seem different, but it's very important when you hire someone for a role that they're able to go heads down and, do their job to the best of their ability. But from a collaboration standpoint, it's equally important to be able to raise your hand and ask for help and continue learning and engage with other folks, especially in a remote first company like the one we're building.
Okay. As you go along further and further in your entrepreneurial CEO role, what are some things that you've been learning recently that you wish you knew from the very beginning?
It's a great question. I would say maybe first, don't be as hard on myself. Is probably the most obvious one to me at the moment, just because I think when you don't know what it's going to take and you are doing it for the first time, at least I'm the type of person who likes to be all in like 110% of the time, all the time. And I think that intensity and that amount of energy sometimes could also potentially get in your way. So I've found I've been able to, I think, over the last 2 years, continue to grow as a person, hopefully that translates as well to the team.
As you grow as a leader, what are some of the things you've seen to be really important in the role of leadership?
Yeah, I am a big believer in practicing what you preach. And I do think, it's funny because on one hand, I feel like it's, culture starts like at the bottom, but I equally think culture starts at the top. And you want to invite your team and your organization as it continues to grow to continue building and expanding on the values that you've set out on your mission, rather than devolving over time just because of growing too fast or not hiring the right team, etc. So to us, it's very crucial that we, as creative folks, as lifelong learners, as people who love working in this space at the intersection of creativity and engineering, being able to continue building a product that is not only reflective of our customer, but is reflective of ourselves. And ultimately, from a leadership standpoint, it's important for us to, I think, continue communicating that well as we continue to build a team.
The second to last question I'd like to ask is, what advice would you give to founders or soon-to-be founders who are watching this episode?
I would say, first off, don't do it as a first-time founder by yourself. I think that's a big mistake. I'm really, really lucky to have an amazing team with me. I would have failed a long time ago on my own. I really, fundamentally, as you can probably tell, feel strongly that you should not go out it by yourself the first time. I know there are solo founders that succeed, I've seen the numbers, though, on around success rates, and they're definitely down for solo founders. And I've even seen investors not liking, especially at an early stage, investing in teams with solo founders. Even if your founder market fit is so strong, meaning you are like really the right person to be taking on the challenge that you're solving, even if that's like a nearly perfect fit, there's just so many things to do. And it's really challenging to wear so many hats and successfully grow your business and your company by yourself if you don't have the right day-to-day support there in the trenches with you.
Can you elaborate on how you feel like you wouldn't have succeeded if it were just two of the three of you? Like, how do you know if three is not enough? How do you know that you didn't want a fourth co-founder or a fifth co-founder? Like, what's the appropriate size?
Good question. First off, we've only hit certain milestones. We are far from having succeeded. We're on our way towards our success, though. So that's first off. Secondly, I like three. I'm a big believer in the checks and balances of government, of other types of organizations, and I think three is the right fit because having an even number can often cause 50-50 splits. Having a solo founder, I just mentioned, can be overwhelming, and I think having 5 people as co-founders is likely too many cooks in the kitchen.
Okay, sounds good. And the last question I like to end all of my calls with is what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you if that's something they'd like to do?
Sure. You can email me at Larry, Larry, at Cquence.app, spelled CQUENCE.app.
Sounds good. Thanks again for your time, Larry. This has been great.
Sounds good. Thanks, David.